You're the
Good
man,
evening.
Paul.
Howard is back from parent teacher. Now, Howard, I hope you gave a lot of good reports out tonight.
I sure did. Absolutely.
So this is Paul Haller and Howard Kravitz. We're going to be bringing on Kyle Roscoe and a very special guest tonight. And, we all come across people in racing that, we're fortunate to develop relationships with. Howard, you had a great interview with Nick Tamero last night. He's just been he's been so supportive of this show from the beginning. He's come on with us several times, and that was very interesting. I'm really sorry I missed that. Even it was my idea, so I was there in spirit.
By the way, Paul, we got a lot of great feedback, and I thank you for that idea. I've got a bunch of emails and texts from people saying, Howard, I learned a lot. It was a great show. People in the industry enjoyed that show. So, Paul, I want to give you full credit once again for that idea. I thought it worked out really well. And, of course, Nick Tamero was awesome, obviously.
Yeah, and the ironic thing, Howard, and you brought it out last night, the irony is this. People get so worked up about the morning lines. That's one thing. And part two is the majority of people don't understand what goes into making them, and the fact that it's not Nick Tamero telling you he thinks the 7-horse should be the favorite. He's telling you he thinks the betting public is going to make the 7-horse the favorite. So it was really good. But what I was getting at is, this woman that we're going to bring on. Should we bring on Kyle first, Howard?
Look, let's take care of a few particulars, Paul.
Okay,
on the bottom
all
of the
right.
screen. We got some administrative items real quick. Go ahead and rattle them off, Paul. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got to like us, love us, hate us, whatever, but follow us above all. Okay, do whatever you want, but follow us. This is important, though. The power picks, which now come with the ABC picks of myself and Howard and Pete, it's going to be especially valuable. You're going to get a lot of value added going to the Breeders' Cup. Howard, the teacher, has assigned Peter, Kyle, and myself races that we have to do deep dives on. We will be graded by him, and ultimately we'll be graded by you because you'll see how good we are. So sign up for the power picks. It works out to $4 a week, which is probably not even a grande at Starbucks. It's probably an extra large at Dunkin' Donuts in our part of the world. The website that Pete has put together, hhhracingpodcast.com, you can catch all this information. So we have Kyle Roscoe.
Twitter. Follow us on Twitter, Paul.
Oh yeah, Howard. Yeah, Howard's is on a crusade for more followers. Follow Howard on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. Follow Jessica on Twitter. Follow Kyle. Follow everyone on Twitter. Okay. Kyle Roscoe is a regular contributor. He's coming on. We bringing him on first, Howard?
Sure. Here he comes.
Here I come. What's up, guys? How's it going?
Hey, Kyle. How you doing? So as I was saying, you come across people in this game and you develop relationships, and this is a really special one for me. Jessica Paquette, I'll just give you just a very little bit of her background, and then we'll let her talk about herself. But Jessica was the longtime vice president of marketing, communications. She was the broadcast analyst at Suffolk Downs. She was at Suffolk Downs for 16 years. That's where I met her. Spent many, many days in the press box at our beloved Suffolk Downs with her. If you play Colonial Downs, you recognize Jessica. She is the paddock personality at Colonial Downs. If you were watching Pennsylvania Derby Day, you saw that she was at Parks. And if you were watching the live HHH show, as you should be on Saturdays when we do it live, she gave you society right there, just right from the paddock at Parks. So she is got her and her relationship and her work with the TRF, we want her to talk about as well, probably most importantly. But without further ado, from right up, not too far from where I am sitting right now, here in the little northeastern corner of Massachusetts, my president, Jessica Paquette.
Oh. Thanks for having me, guys.
Jessica,
and I bring that up, Jessica, because Jessica, you'll recognize this.
Oh man! And Dr. Sheehan's on the cover. So the gentleman on the cover is still my horse's veterinarian. He's a longtime track vet at Suffolk Downs. He's been my own personal vet for a million years. One of my genuinely favorite people. Fantastic! That's making my night.
I think this might have been the last one, Jess.
We made it a good one, at least.
2014.
I think that was it.
I didn't mention that among her many titles in the game, Howard, she served as president of the very esteemed New England Turf Writers Association.
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, those dinners at Kitty's in North Reading were something to be had.
So Jess, what I want to start with is, and the timing is great. I very briefly went over all your affiliations in the game, but tell our audience how you really did get started and the experience you had as a young kid that really whet your appetite for this game.
So I was from a non-horsey family. I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts. Those of you that know Lowell know, there are no horses. And horses, I was a horse crazy kid, and horses seemed like a lifetime away. But luckily we had the internet, and these were the early days before the internet was filled with creeps, or we just didn't know it was filled with creeps. And a bunch of teenagers and I got on the AOL message boards and made fan clubs for our favorite horses. We were like 13, 14, very popular among our classmates, clearly. And Trudy McCaffrey, who owned Free House and some other really lovely horses in the 90s, thought that kids were the future of the sport. So she kind of stumbled across us on these message boards, and she, along with John DeSantis, Kate and Bradar, a lot of other great folks in the industry, they formed Kids to the Cup, which was designed to bring folks that were not growing up in racing into the sport and give them a foot in the door. And for many of us, it's a testament to Trudy's vision, because oh God, like we're very old, but like 25, 30 years later, we're still working in the industry.
Well, that's terrific. And again, the timing is great, because we do have the cup, the cup coming up. I want to talk, Jessica, it's a sore spot with you and me, but we share something in common with Kyle and Howard, because Kyle and Howard were devotees of Arlington Park, which is now dearly departed. And of course, I think you and I stood in the paddock for several last racing days of Suffolk Downs. We
had a couple of finales.
It was a real Irish funeral. We had about 6 or 7 of them. But yes, Howard,
hey,
would you like to talk?
Dean's got a great question for yourself and Jessica. At the bottom of the screen, there's going to be comments and questions from our wonderful viewers. Ooh. When do you guys want to tackle that?
I actually don't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. I was busy weeping on the roof of the Suffolk Downs press box. I wrote the press release afterwards, but that is not. I know Tammy Pammarini was aboard the horse that crossed the wire last. She was aboard the final horse to cross the wire.
June 30th. June 30th was the day, I believe, Jessica, because I've told the story on this show. I got a text that morning from my daughter's longtime boyfriend and asked if he could come to see us that day. And I said to my wife, I think he's coming to ask to marry Catherine. And my reply to him was, it's the last day of racing at Suffolk Downs. I'll be home after 6. So we were not, and that was why he was coming. And
what a memorable day all around.
That gave him a pretty good understanding of what he was getting into. So that
you really did get a wedding and a funeral all in one day.
And I did. And when they finally did decide were deciding on a wedding date, there were some block dates given out. Derby, Travers, Breeders' Cup.
Thank you.
There it is, guys.
Dean, thank you.
Yeah, I remember it. I was standing there trackside, but anyway, what I was getting at, Jessica, is you have said, I've heard you say many times, when that happens, you really don't know what's going to happen. You work at a track for 16 years, and now let's just fill people in on not only have you survived that funeral, but just give our viewers a little bit of an idea of where it has taken you.
My heart will always be at the East Boston Oval, but I've been extremely fortunate that horses have taken me to a bunch of great places. I've been fortunate to be at Colonial Downs the past 2 summers in the paddock with one of my best friends, Jason Beam, as the announcer. So getting paid to hang out and talk about horses with your best friend, like 10 out of 10 stars, would highly recommend it. And I also the past couple of winters, I've gone to Sam Houston to help them out on their big days. I've also gotten in the announcer's booth here and there along the way, calling some quarter horses, the occasional steeplechase race. I filled in for Nick doing some thoroughbreds last winter as well.
So there's not much you haven't done. And of course, I before you came on, you heard I told people that you were nice enough to give people the winner of the Oaks at Parks on
even a blind squirrel finds a nut sometimes.
That's right. Kyle, before we get to the handicapping, anything for Jessica?
No, just I've never had the opportunity to meet Jessica. I've never been, like I said, getting into racing. It was basically only Arlington. I worked at Arlington, lived and breathed Midwest racing, but now as I broadened my horizons, I get the great opportunity to meet great people like you. So I'm very happy to meet you and very happy to talk with you tonight.
Nice to meet you too. I had my first trip to Hawthorne a couple of weeks ago, and I was so charmed by that track. It is my kind of racetrack in every way.
Jessica, I got the scoop from Jim Miller. I won't tell any stories, but I talked to Jim about that. By the way, Kyle, your mic's a little bit hot. You might want to turn down the volume if you can. Jessica, real quick, if you don't mind, Paul, tell us before we get, and by the way, everyone that's listening and watching, we thank you. We are going to be handicapping the late pick 5 at Aqueduct, Belmont at Aqueduct this Saturday. And we're also going to be talking about another stake race tonight. So thanks for joining us. We're going to get to the handicapping in just a minute. Jessica, tell everyone why you were in Chicago. Was it a week and a half ago now, right?
A week and a half ago, I was running the Chicago Marathon. It was my first ever marathon, and it was a year and a week since I broke my back in a horseback riding accident last October.
It's unbelievable, Paul.
Off the top of my head, what's that, about 208 furlongs, Jessica?
But who's counting at that point, right? I was just glad I didn't need the screen at the end. To be honest.
We got a math teacher with us, so he's gonna 208 furlongs, not counting the 0.2, Howard. So you'll have to do the point.
They made me walk a mile to the start. I thought that was like a great injustice. Like, how dare? Like, I'm running 26 miles and I have to walk a mile to start.
Well, they wanted to make sure you were loose.
Yeah,
it looked like it was a really good weather day, Jessica.
It was perfect. It was fantastic.
Good for you.
Great day to be at a racetrack, really. I mean, it's the kind of weather that makes you want to be at a racetrack.
Yes, teacher Howard.
Mr. Halloran, sir, I have an answer, sir. 209.6 furlongs.
Wow. Okay, well, I said
that includes the 0.2.
Right. So I was right. If you do 26 times 8, you'll get to what I said it was. 208. Good. Jessica, before we do the handicapping, tell us a little bit about you mentioned your accident. You know, you ride, you have horses, you have what you call the bad horse. Actually, that is a pretty good story. Briefly, tell people about how you came to own What a Trippy.
So What a Trippy made his career debut at Suffolk Downs he is coming 19. So math teacher Howard, tell me what year that is off the top of my head. I've had a couple of good concussions, so like dates aren't that great. But, it's about 16 years ago, he made his first start at Suffolk Downs on this terrible rainy afternoon, like torrential rain. And he was not really that thrilled about any of it. I mean, I watched this little bay horse come up to the track, like trying to throw himself on the ground, trying to decapitate his groom. Like, he was awful in his first start. And then the race happens. He ran a really good second. And there was something about this horse that I went, oh my God, that's mine. He's going to be mine. He's not my type at all. I've ridden show horses kind of off and on throughout my life, and nothing about him was what I would think was mine, but had to have him. So the next day I went to the barn, saw George Sicardo, and spent pretty much every day that summer bringing this horse carrots to bribe him into liking me, because he was unpleasant. He was wretched as a 3-year-old. He bit. He was awful. I loved him. He went on to have a pretty good racing career. He was a New England champion. The president may have been a little bit biased in the voting. I'm not going to lie. There may have been some bias back then. And then ultimately he wound up kind of dropping down the claiming ladder and getting claimed away by Mike Lassesi from George Sicardo, who I did not know. He raced in Finger Lakes. So the day he was claimed, I called Mike out of the blue and said, look, you don't know me, but I want this horse when he's done racing. I don't care, how sound he is. I promised him he'd have a home when he's done. So about a year and a half goes by, and Trippy did okay at Finger Lakes, like an occasional win, and the $4,000 non-winners of 2 cents the date. And he was the only horse in Mike's very large shed row with like 40 something horses with a traffic cone in front of his stall, because he still bit. And one day in November, Mike called me and said, if you want him, he's yours. So I pulled some strings with some old New England folks at Finger Lakes, got him here to Massachusetts, and the rest was history. He was a relatively difficult horse to retrain under saddle. We had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, but eventually he wound up being the greatest partner of my life. He's 19, almost 19 now. He had a great horse showing career. We showed in the Hunters with some degree of success, and now he's retired and just eats Pop-Tarts all the time.
And that flows into, tell us, we'll get right to the handicap, Jessica, but how important aftercare is in your role in it.
I've been fortunate to work for the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, and the issue of aftercare is the thing that matters most to me. In my time at Suffolk Downs, I saw firsthand that people at small tracks can do the right thing, and most of them want to. Suffolk was the first track in the country to institute an anti-slaughter policy back in around 2007, and we had some teeth with that. We did back it up. There was a culture of doing the right thing wherever and however you could, through everyone we worked with at Suffolk Downs. And that really stuck with me. And aftercare, it's the thing that matters most. We, as an industry, risk losing our social license to operate if we don't continue to try to do better for our athletes. It's one thing to say we love our horses and to show, photos of us giving them Pop-Tarts and giving them snacks and patting them, but we have to make kind of tangible change that makes their lives better, both on and off the track.
Jessica has some fans in the chat, Howard. Someone's hitting pick 5 at Colonial. They're hitting pick 5s with her plays. And Ross Blacker says she's the best. So Jess,
you guys are so nice.
Jess's fan club is out in force tonight.
Oh,
this is worth
absolutely.
staying in time.
Jessica, I've seen those Pop-Tarts on Twitter. What's his favorite? It's a boy, correct? Male horse. I'm sorry.
He's a
What's
gelding.
his favorite flavor?
Pumpkin. He's a little basic, like I am. Like he does like the seasonal pumpkin pie one.
Okay, very good. Frosted cinnamon for me. Just want to throw it out there.
Okay, good. Right.
Back in the day, I can't remember the last time I had a Pop-Tart, but one of my favorite teenage snack foods for sure.
They're pretty gross. Like they taste like chalk.
Yeah, they're not. You throw them in the toaster, it'll warm up a little bit.
Chalk with a sugar coating.
Yep, that's right.
We don't eat chalk here. There is no chalk.
No chalk eaters on this show, Jessica. So what we do on this show, Jessica, is we handicap a sequence, but we're going to start with, there is a stakes race out of the sequence, probably owing to the fact that it was a 5-horse race, which means they thought they might have gotten a 4-horse race. But it is the Noble Damsel at Belmont at the Big A on Saturday. It's a mile on turf. It's a grade 3. We didn't send in picks for this, Howard, right? We just sent in picks for the. I didn't send in picks for it, but
no,
we'll take
there'll be no picks on the bottom of the screen. We'll just quickly.
We'll
I'll
just
show the
go
PPs and we can just talk about it.
Yeah, so you have Robbie Falcone has this horse kept waiting, and Christophe Clement. This horse was at one time grade 1 placed. Plum Ali. You see Evie Jets, the slumping Eric Cancel. Clement, the other Clement, he's got a kind of a stranglehold on this race. He's got Messidor and shipping up. Guy who had a good day that we saw, Jessica, on Derby Day, John Service ships up with Porque No. So just give us your thoughts on this race, and then we'll go around to Howard and Kyle.
So call me a bit of a shameless homer, but I'm not dismissing Porque No here by any stretch. I think this horse has a little bit of upside. Only 3 starts so far off of a significant layoff. I think she made a big step forward last time out. It was a good step in the right direction. But the race I really go back to, and that is that first start at Colonial. I know she was hopelessly defeated that day, and the waters were extremely deep. But if you look at the horses that have come out of that race, like Alms and Ahuri both came back to win. But it's the winner, Didia, who anyone paying attention, put this horse in your stable mail. She's a graded stakes winner. I will die on this hill. I think she was the most impressive horse I saw at Colonial all summer. She was a South American filly coming in for Nacho Correas, who knocked off 2 wins in a row. Super, super impressive. I haven't noticed a workout from her in quite a bit, so I'm wondering if she is sidelined with something, but keep the faith on this one.
Jessica, did Service have a string at Colonial, or did he just ship this horse in?
Shipped in, I believe. I believe she just shipped in.
Wow. And I see she ran the Oaks there last year. So you actually saw her 2 years in a row at Colonial.
That's true. I mean, none of them were really that memorable as far as performances from her, but I think, maybe she's not good enough to win here, but I wouldn't dismiss her entirely.
Well, not just because you're on, Jessica, but the Colonial Downs form has held up pretty good, I think, both last year and this year. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think it's just getting tougher each year. Especially this year was interesting with so many horses and trainers and people coming in from Illinois with no Arlington. We got a kind of an even broader group of contenders.
Kyle?
I mean, I 100% agree with that. I loved playing. You had, like Jessica just said, like the Chris Blocks at Colonial this year, just to touch on that. He won a good few out there. So Colonial looked like it had a really great turf course out there, which I would love to get to see.
It
one
is the
day.
best in the country.
Yeah, and I could definitely see that. I'm really high on the other Clement in here on Messidor. I think that last race was extremely impressive from this horse. So just taking steps forward, and I think that I think she's really in a spot to take a big leap here. So I'm actually going to take her over Plum Ali in this race.
Kyle, any concern in a short field, and it looks like this horse is kind of pace dependent, that she may not have enough to run at?
Which definitely is a concern, and I'm going off of the fact that I think Plum Ali does sit a really nice trip, because I'm assuming that she's going to break on the inside of Evie Jets, but take back enough to take her to the outside and track from the outside. It's just the fact, it's going to come down to me. It's going to be the fact that what's Kept Waiting going to do? Is Kept Waiting going to go with them, or is Kept Waiting going to sit the pocket trip? She's ended up doing both in her lifetime. Recently, she sat more of the pocket trip, which could be beneficial to Plum Ali. But I believe if they do go with her, I think Messidor has a really good shot in this race.
Yeah, Kept Waiting. That Caress at Saratoga, Robin Sparkles, as I recall, went wire to wire at a big price. People were waiting for her to get caught, and Kept Waiting chased her and ended up 7th. So we'll see what happens there. Uncle Howard, who do you like in this race?
When I handicap this, of course I do without the mooring lines. Plum Ali at 8-5. I mean, no, thank you. I don't. That seems like a huge underlay to me. I mean, sure, Plum Ali can win, but she's really been pretty disappointing overall. She goes off at relatively low prices. Last time at Pimlico in the All Long, she's what, $1.10. Can't get the job done. Although In a Hurry is a nice horse, but still, she got a pretty good trip. I agree with Kyle here. And Paul, your point is taken about the speed situation. We all know it's a New York turf race, which means anything can happen. But when you really look at it, I mean, I think Evie Jets wants to be up close. I mean, sure, she can come from behind, but I think she's probably more effective up close. Kyle, I think Keep Waiting from the rail almost has to go. Irad, I think, will be aggressive. We'll see. But even Jessica's horse, the 5 Porcano is better on the lead. So it sure looks like to me that's going to set up for Messidor. Slight concern, Paul, about the distance. I know she's won it a mile, but Clement kept her like 6 and 7 for a while. So I think she's probably better as a sprinter, a closing sprinter, but she's in great form. Clement puts Castellano, who's been unbelievable this year. People have been paying attention. I'm going with Messidor. I'll be happy to take even as low as 8-5 on a value line for me.
Ross Blacker makes a good point in the chat. JT Service, John's son. I got my services mixed up there. I assume he shipped in as well, though, Jessica.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I kind of looked at Kept Waiting there. I was a little concerned of that race, but I like the fact Irad's on. It's an interesting on a Saturday during Keeneland. Irad is at Irad and Pratt are both riding in New York.
Yeah,
Pratt had a masterful ride today in the last race, if anyone saw it. But I thought that Kept Waiting could get the best trip of the lot there, and the fact that Irad's on him is not making me like him any less. So with that, let's get on to the pick 5, because as I say on the show every night, Jessica, I am a serial horizontal player. Although listening to some of the people who've been on and my results, I should probably rethink that. But we are going to kick it off in race 6. It is a 7 furlong maiden special. It is 2-year-old maidens, always fun. The fact that it's the first leg is an advantage. If you wait, there are a few. The 1 and 2 are both first-time starters. The 9 is a first time, and the 8. So they're all relatively long on the board. So you'll see if they take any action, it might tip you off. But we're going to go through our top 3. And Jessica, not only because we always let the guests first, but because you're such a special guest, you will go first. So tell us who you like in this race.
Well, thank you. I'm not really reinventing the wheel here. Number 6, Rudder's Man, looks very well met here. And this is a horse who has the pedigree to really be pretty precocious. The dam's a half-sister to Yaupon. This horse is also coming in with a very sharp work tab, even for Todd. I mean, Todd's horses do work pretty well. This work tab is very sharp. I imagine he's pretty well meant to come out of the gate flying here. I do like a little bit number 9. That's Fast Boat to Sky. The Dam's a half to Kentucky Oaks winner. Believe You Can. Comes out for David Donk. Everybody likes David Donk. There are very few people, I think, in racing that you can get a universal opinion that everybody roots for David Donk. I certainly do. This one does not have a super impressive work tab, but does have a steady work tab. And I think this is a horse coming into this race with a solid foundation. And the fitness is not a question at a big price. I'm going to use this horse both on my horizontal ticket and my exotics.
Honk if you love Donk, I believe is the saying, Jessica.
That's it, right?
Kyle, you like the 6 as well.
I do. And then the only thing to add on to Jessica's is the battalion runners' first runners are coming, and no pun intended, of course. His first runners are coming out, and he's 2 for 3 with 2-year-old first-time starters is another thing to look at. Granted, one of them was Charlestown, and another one was 5 furlongs, I think, sprinting. So, but very well meant.
Do you know where that track is, Kyle?
Charlestown, West Virginia.
No. CMR. Do you know what CMR is?
No, I do not.
That is South America, sir.
Yeah. There you
By
go.
the way, Kyle, I don't. Paul and Jessica, I still think Kyle's mic's a little bit high. I don't know. Is it just me or is it a little loud? Feels loud.
I'm hearing him okay.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry.
I'll just back up. It's okay. No worries at
Sorry,
all.
Jessica. Am I wrong? Isn't that South America, CMR, or is that Puerto Rico? Or
Isn't it Camarero?
CMR? I'm sorry.
Camarero in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it's Camarero
right?
in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
I mean,
Puerto Rico.
Again, geography, not my strong point either.
No, you're right. That's why I corrected myself. You're absolutely right. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry about that.
No, you're good at all. And then obviously you guys can also touch on I like Skellig on second. His last race was really good on the lead, just faded at the end to the Chad Brown horse expected value, and everyone else came with him. I think this horse can be really well meant in this race, and obviously it's a New York turf. I mean, not a New York turf, a New York dirt race. Lead is definitely nothing, especially at Aqueduct. It's nothing to sneeze at. I like him in second. I think the Todd Pletcher horses are really a lot more well meant. And again, not reinventing wheel. I'm going with the other Todd in this race with a very nice work line. So, and again, I'm not getting too crazy in here, and you'll see with the pick 5 later. I'm just going to go pretty simple here.
Howard, you tabbed the 4/3. Is that to make the board, or will he be a C thinking he could blow up the pick 5 right off the shoot?
Well, again, I did not see the morning lines before, but I don't really care. He's going to be a C or maybe even a B. This is the kind of race, guys, with a lot of first-time starters. You got to check the board. I do want to say, I'm going to bring us a little bit on screen here. The Belmont track has been very fast the last few weeks, so you're going to see a lot of fast works. Don't get too carried away with that, because you see Paros, the 4, just breezed in 59-4, breezing. I mean, normally that would be, a wow kind of moment, and that is a nice breeze. The 4's got some dirt pedigree, Paul. That's what I like about this horse. Jerkins does not win first out. He's better second out. You look at this horse by Cairo Prince out of a trap shot mare, and this horse you can see on the screen as I go full was staked on the dirt. This is absolutely a dirt horse. So there's dirt breeding in the pedigree. He's got nice works. He's going to be a big price. Why not? I mean, he showed some speed first time out. I think he's interesting. I agree with Kyle in general, though, with the 6 and the 5. You have to see the board, obviously, but the 4 would be sort of my bomb play. And I just also want to mention the 10. Jessica's got the 10. Well, actually, Kyle, Paul, you should mention the 10. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I picked the 10 on top for a few reasons. I mean, I'm a little concerned. I mean, Mott doesn't win first out that much, but the fact that he was 27 to 1 is a little concerning. However, it's no secret that Mott is very good second time out. Also, out of that race, there have been 1 next out winner and 2 other horses to run second. So it looks like that was a pretty live race. He puts up a 59 if he goes, presuming he's going to improve on that. I think it puts him right in the mix. Mott's got his go-to guy, Junior Alvarado, on. He's got the outside post at 7 furlongs, which I like. He'll be able to see what everyone else is doing. I don't think he'll be 6 to 1, but I do like a little bit of a price, so I went with him on top.
Hey, Paul, I got a quick question, if you don't mind. Well, 2 things. Classic Legacy, by the way, the 10 is a half to Art Collector. Just to let everyone know, number 1.
Same owner, correct? Yep.
Paul, I'm a little concerned about the works. I mean, I'm sure he's got real nice upside, and I know Mott doesn't work his horses fast. And maybe Jessica can comment, but They worked him on the turf. He's got slow dirt works. I don't know if he's got like feet issues. I don't know. His workout tab rubs me the wrong way. I wonder if you or Jessica has an opinion on that.
For me, he just seems like a horse who probably is a little slow to develop. I wonder if he's just maybe not a 2-year-old winner. His best will probably be off of the pedigree, kind of off of the work tab. I bet a little bit down the line.
I agree.
And maybe, especially how you mentioned Art Collector, it could very well be that this horse is going to get better as they go longer. I mean, you really don't get too caught up in the running line with a Mott first, and especially a horse like this, as Jess points out, if he is a little slow to develop, then that would also explain, the people on the backstretch know, so to speak. So that would explain the 27-1 a little more. So, okay, we will move on to the 7th, the second stakes race on the card. It is the Grade 2 Hill Prince. It will be contested at 1 1/8 on turf. That's 9 furlongs, keeping with our furlong discussion tonight. And the good news is this is a full field of 10. And Ms. Paquette, you went with limited liability.
For me, the roads run through Colonial Downs here, and I went with the both horses that ran in the Virginia Derby, limited liability and unanimous consent, though I do like limited liability a little bit more. He really didn't have a good trip in the Virginia Derby. I thought despite that, he ran on pretty well, and he's been knocking his head against some solid fields. This is also a horse who I think has tremendous upside as he continues to develop a little bit. His female family is ridiculously impressive. Just one of those multi-generational Janny pedigrees that the further you go down the rabbit hole, the cooler it gets. The third dam is Megan's Joy, who produced Ironicus, On Leave, a bunch of nice horses. And I think this one next year will really kind of come into himself a little bit.
Yeah, I think I recall. I think I played this horse in the Virginia Derby, just as my recollection.
Did too.
I don't know. Maybe I had Capensis. Could I have hit that race? You never know. Blind squirrel. Kyle, you like Celestial City?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are going to watch that last race, and they're going to really see that it really doesn't look that impressive. Basically, a 4-time buyer top. I like the last race at Saratoga where he was second, or where he was second. I said it right. Where he was second to Annapolis, who just won at Keeneland this past weekend, and you can see him coming down the stretch on the outside there. You're going to see it just kind of, it doesn't dud out, but it kind of just slows down. It doesn't look like they're really giving it what we see with these really nice $105,000 allowances. But he does get up for the win. There's no fault in that. So I just think this horse is going to sit a really nice tactical trip and get the run at the end.
The second McGahee, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Howard likes the Todd Pletcher. Be better.
So let me ask you guys a question. Have you ever picked a horse on top when in its previous race it got not a DNF? Not a DNF. That's right. The dreaded one buyer. I'm not sure. I actually like the DNF angle, but this horse did cross the wire. How would you like to be the chart caller, Jessica, for that? Let's see. How many lengths did he finish? Oh, yeah. Let's go with 65 as the number.
So my favorite chart caller comment was an old one from Paul's and my old friend, Jim Bishop, who his chart caller comment was, appeared to dislike racing.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
he was the best.
He better definitely disliked racing on this day, and he did not get any kind of bad trip or anything. Guys, here's my feeling, and Jessica, you're as sharp as they come, and I'm sure you've felt this way in certain situations. This is the kind of situation for me where Todd, it seems like he's being very aggressive here. This is all just sort of a gut feeling kind of play for me for two reasons. One is this horse would be eligible for an N2X, but he's choosing this grade 2 spot. And then number two, he's throwing him on turf. Now, this horse has plenty of turf breeding. You see Uncle Mo, no problem there. Smart Strike on the dam side. And you see Social Call. Okay, fine. She was only, broke her maiden there on the turf. But there's plenty of turf pedigree here. And I think Todd, I don't think he's like searching for something here. It's Rapoli stable. I think this horse is fascinating. He's got tactical speed, and no disrespect to some of the horses you mentioned, Jessica, but I'm sort of looking for a fresh face here. They sort of run the same kind of race. This horse has run a 91. Yes, I know it was on Monmouth Dirt. I don't know, guys. The intent here for me, Jessica, just is really loud and clear. And I think Todd thinks highly of this horse, and I think this horse is fascinating.
So you've kind of talked me onto him a little bit here. This is the kind of horse who I do feel like, wins, pays like, $12-15 or whatever. And then everyone goes, how did we miss that one?
Yeah. And there's not a lot of early speed in this race either. And I think IRAD's going to be aggressive. So that's my thought here, Paul. I agree with the 1. It's got a shot, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan. I think the 9 is a bit interesting. Wicked Fast at a price. So when you look at the buyers, guys, the buyers are not that far off of your limited liabilities. And take a look at who takes over the training, guys. Michael Maker, hello, first-time trainer. You can see an explosive buyer top here. Wicked Fast might be just that in this race. I don't know, Paul. I'm just going with some fresh faces here.
Well, and keeping with that angle, this is a very interesting first-time Chad Brown after 10 starts. This horse was a West Coast turf horse who was very good as a juvenile. Ran a good third to Modern Games in the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf last year. I think that was the race you couldn't cash if you played Modern Games, wasn't it? Was that the race?
Yeah.
I had Tis the Bomb that day, so one of those days it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah, well, you should send bouquets of flowers and more stupid pills to the California stewards, is what you should have done. Anyway, I went with McKinnon. I typically like horses on turf going east to west, not west to east. But as I say, this horse was pretty good last year, has not put it together this year. That slowed down Andy. That Del Mar Derby Grade 2 race, that was a wire job, as I recall. I think my good friend Doc Jeff Moore loved that horse that day. I think he was first-time turf that day as well. But I went with Brown and Pratt and didn't complicate things. I used Celestial City. I think Celestial City is more of a board horse here. And my price play for the board was Neil Drysdale coming in with this St. Anthony, because I did go to Catholic school grades 1 through 16, so naturally I'm going to play St. Anthony to make the board. I was working all day for one of my clients' St. Anthony Shrine on Arch Street in Boston. So how am I not using St. Anthony?
We all need a hunch play. I went to 13 years of Catholic school.
There you go. See? She just gets better and better. This is like the ideal person.
I got in trouble a lot for sneaking in a daily racing form to class. The nuns were never that impressed by me.
That's not the first person we've had on this show that's talked about bringing the form to their Catholic school. And none of the stories worked out very well in the short term. In the long term, of course, they did. But
the most out of place I've ever taken the form is the guy that I work for, Ted Grant, is a huge polo guy, and anytime we go to his place in New York, we go to the flagship Ralph Lauren on the corner of Madison and 72nd, I believe. And we're on the way to some basketball game, and he's picking out probably a $2,000 suit. And I said, of course, the next day I'm going to OTB, right? I'm in New York City. I said, I'm pretty confident no one has ever sit in a chair on the second floor of the flagship Ralph Lauren store with the daily racing form. But there I was.
I think it works.
And you were proud of me, Jessica.
Very.
Moving on to the 8th, they nice of them to put this right in the middle of the sequence. Just what you're looking for is the 7 furlong 2-year-old maiden claimer. This is the male counterpart to the 6th race, it looks like to me. 7 furlongs, again, on the dirt, $40,000 claimers. And Jessica has Mr. Mike Dinney, who I think is always live in New York. Talk about the 4, Jess.
I agree. And I went with the 4 Saratoga Banker, who really didn't embarrass himself in his debut. Didn't have the best trip. I think I had an interesting jockey change from apprentice Maddie Rowland, who's having a terrific go as an appropriate. But
poor Howard, Jessica. We'll get to that in a minute. Continue, Jessica.
Javier Castellano gets aboard, and experience and strength that does go a long way with a young horse. And I think that may be what this horse needs. A cleaner trip, a strong finish. I think he'll be right in the mix. This is one of those races where it's easy, I think, to get a little seduced and make a big old horizontal ticket thinking you need a bunch of different options. I think there are really only a few horses in here that have legitimate chances. Wacky things happen, but I'm also going to use the one Destin Hoffman, who I think looked awfully green in his debut, hinted at some ability. So I'll say he had an educational start and go from there.
What a great name, huh? Destin Hoffman.
Oh, it's great, right?
The 4, by the way, the horse that Jessica liked is the 4 in this race. There are a lot of horses coming out of this race that are on the race on Saturday. I just want to mention that, Paul. So the 4, it was climbing and just looked real uncomfortable here, Jessica. That's the horse that you like. There are a lot of horses that had trouble. This was just a weirdly run, slow kind of race for me. It comes together at the end. I'll take it in the stretch because your 4 does make a run here at the end, Jessica, once he starts figuring some stuff out here.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a horse, having a moderate light bulb moment, figuring it out a little bit, and then just needs things to go his way a little bit better.
Now, I think Maddie Rowland, Howard, won a race about a week and a half ago. Is that accurate?
I do not know to which race you're referring, sir.
So Jessica, our boy Uncle Howard, was alive to 3 horses in the pick 6 the day that Maddie brought home the 52-1 shot in the finale. And poor Uncle Howard ran 2nd, 3rd, and 4th for 35,000, 6,000, and 25,000. So, well, as I said, Jess, in my world, in your world, we're always looking for the great story. I said to Howard on the phone that night, I said, it's a great story unless you had your 3 horses in the pick 6. Then it's a terrible story.
So. I mean, the bad beat stories are some of the best ones, though.
Oh, that was I got to tell you, I've been on the wrong end of a lot of them, but that was a bad beat. Anyway, I don't want to. I had Maddie Rowland, Howard. It had to be discussed. Kyle, you are going with Michelle Nevin, another one of my favorites. Trevor McCarthy.
I am, and this might be. Again, I'm taking the Uncle Howard angle. I'm actually going. I want to look for a fresh face out of that race. Nothing in that race really, it didn't make me want to pick anyone out of that race. So I'm going with a fresh face. And again, it might be because I'm a little bit biased to my Lord Nelson filly. This obviously is a colt, but I love my Lord Nelson filly. Tried her on the turf early in the career. She loves the dirt. This horse has a really good work tab on the dirt. Coming from Michelle Nevin, who doesn't win too much coming from dirt to turf or turf to dirt. But I think this horse, like I said, it's working really well in the dirt. It's going to be a price. And again, I just looking for someone not in that race previous.
They paid $100,000 for the horse. And I'll tell you what she does win is going maiden special or maiden claiming, 25%. So she does win in that situation. Howard likes Jorge Abreu, speaking of first time with the horse, coming from the Danny Gargan barn, D's Speedster, Howard.
Paul, you probably don't hear me say this too much on this show, but I have absolutely no freaking clue who's going to win this race. I mean, the race replay we just saw was not pretty. And I've heard many very smart people over the years say there are no bad trips in slow races. That's how I feel about that replay. I mean, yes, there were some horses that got studied and whatever, but I mean, if you put me in a horse suit, I think I could have finished 6th in that race, and I'm not exactly in tip-top shape. So I agree with Kyle. I'm trying to find, horses that are coming out of main specials. The fact that Jorge Abreu puts IRAD on this horse really perks my interest, and I know that automatically means the horse is going to take more money than he should. But that last work was good enough for me. It's a new barn. Maybe this horse can get out of the gate better. I have no idea, guys, but I just do not want anyone on top coming out of that race we watched, which is why I have the 10. Actually, I do have the 10 fast study coming out of that race, but I thought of all the horses coming out of that race, Paul, I thought he had the most trouble. But again, I am going very deep, spreading a wide net in the pick 5. I have no strong opinions here at all.
Yeah, I am taking a horse coming out of the race. Jessica's horse is coming out of, and it's the 8-horse MCRR. My thinking, and the horse certainly doesn't look great on paper. My thinking is that Jose Gomez is going to be very aggressive, and even though it's 7 furlongs and it's tough to do, I'm not so sure who else is going to go. And I think there is at least a chance that he's going to wire this field. probably in a slowly run race. So I know he's going to be aggressive because that's how he rides. And the horse did go to the lead in that race. I agree with all of you. That was kind of an oddly run race. He does have to go another furlong here, but I think that might accentuate his speed even more. And I'm just going to hopefully get that horse around. But the real good bettors would tell us if you have no opinion on that race, don't play the sequence. But I have a hard, I'm going to have to see about that. I have a hard time handicapping for the show, handicapping more before Saturday, and then sitting on the sidelines.
Hey, Paul, can I just throw out a quick ticket construction
Yes.
a point that I want to make in this race based on what you said? For better or for worse, in my opinion, Paul, and I think you brought up an excellent point, I only have 1A in this race. I think it's a mistake for people in general to go like 5 or 6 A's in this race because you don't, quote unquote, know what to do. I don't know how Jessica feels from a ticket construction standpoint, but to me, if you're an ABC player, you're playing multiple tickets, take a stand with 1 or 2 and then back up with several. Just to use like 8 or 10 just because you have no idea seems like maybe not the best idea. I would just take a stance and go with a few, and then you can back it up or not back it up. Jessica, how do you feel about that in general?
I really agree there. I think this is the kind of race where you can get a little separation from your competition in theory, where a lot of folks are going to feel the need to hit the all button, which I think is such a cop out, or go quite a few horses deep where sure. Like I said, maybe something wacky happens, but I think there are quite a few horses in this race that really I can't make a logical case for them. And if I can't make a logical case for them, I'm not going to put them on a ticket just to flesh out a ticket. I'm not frugal in any area of my life, except apparently when I'm constructing a horizontal ticket then I'm like, no way, we're bargain hunting only here.
Well, we know you're not
smarter than most.
We know you're not frugal when it comes to spending on your equine children.
Or my wardrobe. Like it's terrible. Like the amount of packages, like, I've been taking treat yourself like a little too liberally lately, but maybe we'll hit the quick 5 and make up for it.
That's right. Okay, we're going to move on to the 9th, which is a pretty good turf allowance, 2-turn 1 mile on the turf. It is, again, a relatively full field. 8 will go, presuming the weather's good. I think the weather is going to be good, so the MTO would be a likely scratch. If for any reason it goes off the turf, the MTO is going to be very difficult to beat. And Jessica, and this is also no surprise, is going with Graham Motion.
No shock at all. But I think this horse, the 6th one on the morning line may be a little bit too much of a gift to hope for, but this is a horse who's just so consistent, rarely runs a bad race, has a very good turn of foot. The question mark for me is, does anyone go with Java Bus? I think if this one has everything his own way on the front end, he may be a little tough to reel in, but Shalane could certainly pick up the pieces if anyone's able to take it to him early.
Yeah, that is a good point, Jess. I almost put Java Buzz on top in this race, even first time against winners, for that reason, thinking that there's a chance that could happen. Kyle agrees with Jessica, which is always a good spot to be in, Kyle.
It is it is a good spot to be in. Whenever someone like you is able to agree with you, it definitely boosts my ego for sure for a little bit. But I just think there could be a lot of pace in this race if it shapes up like a lot of these horses do on paper. Like the 2 Cedillon went to the lead last time, and he ran a really good race. The 3 is going to want to go towards the lead. The 6 is going to want to go towards the lead. So I think if we can kind of get what looks like on paper, I think it sets up really nicely for the 1 coming off a really nice race against the 4 in this race, Danzig with the Stars, which is an amazing name, might I add, just put it out there. Like I said, I just think it's coming off a really good race. Like Jessica said, this horse never runs a bad race, always runs the great race. And if this horse can get the setup that he does enjoy, I think this horse is going to be really live.
I remember talking about Danzig with the Stars in one of the Saratoga races. We were handicapping for the show, and I'm pretty sure he's a pretty serious Saratoga horse for course. If you look at his running lines, that was my recollection. I think I was there 2 races back, would have been 2 days before the Travers, so I was there. He didn't run a lick that day, but he did run the race before that against Statebreds. I think he's one of those horses that really, really likes Saratoga. Although he was coming last time. If that's the race you're showing, Howard, he just about caught Celestial City, who we talked about just very recently in the stakes race. Howard, you like Internal Capital, Chad Brown, Flavian Pratt.
I do. A lot of people sometimes poo-poo these Chad Brown horses coming from Monmouth. Um, I don't think that would be a very good idea because there's a horse that came from Monmouth's done pretty well, and now I can't forget the gosh darn name. The girl that won Bleecker Street. Bleecker Street uh, ran at Monmouth several times, and look what she did. I'm not saying this is the next Bleecker Street. I just want to point out the fact, guys, that I think when people see Monmouth with Chad, they think, oh, maybe this horse is not quite one of his, better ones. Uh, Chad has no problem running horses at Monmouth. This horse broke his maiden very well. It's Flavian and it's Klarovich. Again, he's probably going to be overbet because of all that. But I think there's much bigger upside with this one than the others. I do agree with Kyle. There is some pace, but Kyle, I just want to note, even though you see some ones, Java Buzz has a 109 early time form. On the other horses that look like they are speed types, don't have nearly quick as a time form. So I think the 8 could get clear, but to get the distance against these horses, I'm dubious. I just think the 7 sits a great trip and has a big shot here. I like Danzig with the stars for a second, although I have to say, looking at that replay again, maybe the 1 is the better horse, but I think they're fairly similar. And then I've got the 3 Impulsiveness in third for Pletcher, who's got upside, and I think maybe bounced a little bit off that last effort, has a bull at work, and I think also Impulsiveness might want a little bit shorter. So I wouldn't completely discount the 3, $280,000 buy, guys. I'm a little against the 1 based on a class perspective, but that horse can win. It's a pretty tough race.
Yeah, and I use the 3, Howard, and that's pretty much the main reason. I think the mile is he's going to be much better suited to the mile. I think a mile and 3/16 was way, way out of his range last time. And you see, he was right on the pace for about probably a half a mile or so, and then just gave it up. I think he could get a good trip on this cutback. I don't love him. This is a race where I will have 2 or 3 A's. The 8 will definitely be an A for me. And the 4 is probably more of a B horse. I don't know. I just have that in my tiny little brain that he's more of a Saratoga horse. He is 0 for 5 on this circuit, but he'll be a solid B for me. He could certainly win. So that is it for the 9th. And we will hope to get paid in the 10th race, which is a 6 furlong turf race for state breds. So that this could blow up, but we'll see if we like prices or if we like long shots. And we will go first to Madam President, and she likes the 8 horse.
I do like the 8. Number 8 Yarrow. Consistency really counts for something. This is a horse that shows up every time. Pretty tactical, versatile type. Can show some speed, be a little in that second flight, but can come from off the pace as well. Has been freshened a little bit since Saratoga, and I think we all, everyone universally needs a little break after a long Saratoga season. But I think they're all just going to be trying to catch number 9, Not For Now, coming out for Orlando Nota, first off the claim. This barn is very dangerous first off the claim. Seem to be quite live right now as well. So I think this is a barn with a sharp meat, and this horse has all the tools to be a big gate to wire threat.
Jessica, I also picked the 8 on top. I don't want to jump the line here, but just I want to get your thoughts on it. My thinking was that this race could end up being pretty quick. And I think, while I agree with you, this horse has the tractability to be close. I think it's more likely that this race is going to be won from behind. And I just kind of think this horse might get a pretty good pace to run into.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's shown that he can be pretty versatile, but if he can take back off of what could be a pretty sharp pace. But that's just, we'll see how much Not For Now has left in the tank in the stretch.
Well, it's interesting. Obviously, it's going to be a send. And I read he has ride for Nota. You look at the last 2 years, 54 mounts. So I read will ride for Nota. And obviously this horse has one way to go. And if it looks like he's in form, he is stepping up a little bit from 25 to 45. Which you want to see, frankly, off the claim. You want to see them be aggressive. the obvious hope is that someone's going to go with him early. And, there's a Linda Rice entry in here. Maybe one of them goes. We shall see. Kyle, you went with the 9, not for now. You're expecting the gate to wire trip, I assume.
Correct. Yeah, and I'm just thinking that this horse is so fast out of the gate, and you guys touched on it. The Orlando Noda barn is so good off the claim with Irad, who obviously is notorious for being very aggressive with these types of horses. I just think this horse he's gonna be super aggressive, get cut out with the lead, hopefully get clear, and just run him down. And I went with Phantom Smoke in second. I just think he's gonna try and track. The last race, he really didn't run any sort of a lick. He was close up, but as the favorite, which obviously is, I know Howard just really dislikes that angle, and I do as well. It's just to the fact where his previous races, he's been in such good form running at Saratoga and Belmont that I had to throw him there. Like I said, I think it's a good trip. I almost just see if the 9 gets clear, I almost just think it's going to be a lot of chase, and it's going to be whoever comes out on top. And I actually went with a Price Neuro. Not as heavy on the speed figures necessarily as everybody else, but if the race does fall apart, I feel like this horse can definitely improve off a little bit of a layoff with Saratoga, and I feel like he can definitely at least clunk up to be in the price, to be in the money. Sorry.
And Howard, you are also on the not far now bandwagon.
Can I change my pick? I've had a pretty busy last 48 hours. I have to say that I look carefully at these races, but I'm starting to sort of agree with Jessica and Paul here. I mean, if the 9 doesn't get the lead, he's not winning, right? I mean, all it takes is one horse to be aggressive or him not to quite break perfectly. I'm going to officially change my pick to the 1 who I have in second. Although I'm not change my pick 5 when we come back. I think it's the flat one that I like. Sorry guys. Yeah. I'm going to go with Ghost Giant. I'm not a huge fan of turnbacks on the turf, but this is a claim for Linda, and she puts her main guy Lascano on, and this horse did go 7 before, so I don't, I think, and he's gone 6 before also, so this horse can go short. Again, I'm not a huge fan of 7-year-olds. There's a few negatives, but I think you have to just pick a closer, and I'm just going to pick the 1. I have to admit, it's not my strongest opinion. But I'm going to actually change my picks. I'm going to change it on the screen. I'm going to go 1-9-3. But I agree with Jessica and Paul. The 8 can win. This race could completely collapse. The last race at Keeneland yesterday collapsed in a turf sprint, and James Graham won on a 21-1 long shot, and he looked woefully slower on the figs. But again, when the pace collapsed, strange things happen. I think that could definitely happen here. I'm going to officially change my pick. Literally, I'm going to do it right now to 1-9-3. It's a guess though for me.
I wonder if he lets his students change the answers after the test results are in.
They do not. I'm the teacher, so I can do it.
Dean asked a good question in the chat about whether there's a concern with the 9 in for the tag here, and I think that's a fair question to ask for sure. Big step up, claimed for 25, in for 45. I mean, Noda's doing some good business. If someone gets the win, gets this horse claimed for 45, like again, I'm not good at math, but that seems like a good deal.
He's in
pretty good margin
because of it. He's already passed his conditions. No, isn't that why he's in for the claim?
Well, and not only that, the purse. I mean, if he loses this horse, it's a $90,000 purse, so he's going to pick up 50 there. And another 45. If you claim the horse for 25 and lose him for 95 the next race, you're going to be pretty successful.
It's a good day at the office.
Did you see
Christine Howard has a good question. Does New York have a mandatory jump after a claim if back in under 30 days? I think she is correct. I think you can same level or above. I don't think you can drop within 30 days. Okay. Although I will admit I'm not positive about that. But as usual, Christine, who's my favorite viewer, has a very pertinent point.
It's a very good question.
Paul, did you see the name of the dam of the 9, by the way?
The name of the dam of the 9. Kibosh.
That's what he's going to try to do to this field. Damn! Drop the mic on not far now. I love that.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure about the conditions, but I'm not. The fact that this horse is in for 45, off a 25 claim in a $90,000 race. That that wouldn't alarm me
No.
at all.
It's also a case of strike while the iron's hot. Clearly,
Right.
this horse
Yeah,
is
exactly.
good right now. Capitalize on that.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not hoping to lose him, but if they win the race and lose him, they're not going to be shedding any tears as he's being walked to someone else's barn when they get back to Belmont Park in the shed row. Okay, so that is that. I already talked about the 8. My feeling on the 8 is that I think he gets a good setup. I think the race ends up being maybe a little quicker than it looks on paper. I like Manny Franco on a come from behind turf horse. I like Manny riding for Clemata. I just think the 8 has a lot of positives. The 6-1 morning line, I don't think we'll get that, but if we did, it would be good. So you put all these races together, and we are going to look at some pick 5 tickets. And Howard, I think you will put Jessica's up first.
Whatever you say, you're the boss. First, we'll do that.
Jessica's always first. There you go, Jess. Tell us about it.
Well,
So
Paul,
again,
I'm sorry, Paul. Just a reminder, because we have people who follow our listening platforms. We do need to read the ticket out loud just for everyone.
Okay, yeah. So Jess says 6, 9, 10 with the 10, with the 1, 4, with the 1, 2, 8, with the 8, 9, a bargain at $36. Tell us about Jess. You obviously have a strong opinion on the second leg.
Yeah, I think you have to take a stand somewhere, and I try to keep my tickets relatively reasonably priced. And I like limited liability. He's one of my stronger opinions on the card. When I'm constructing a horizontal ticket, I like to find the strongest opinion and then base my ticket around that. So limited liability, we'll see if that Virginia Derby form can keep going.
Okay. I like it, and then you're 3 deep to open. So obviously you're 3 deep in 2 legs. Those would be the legs that you have the least strong opinion. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think those are where I'm kind of spreading maybe a little bit here. I feel like I am playing a little bit defensively in the last leg, which isn't my favorite thing to do, but I wasn't really sure what to do with Not For Now. I think he's a big gate to wire threat. He's a horse who I think at a short price I don't love, but I don't want to get beat by him.
Yeah, that's I'm going to probably, I'm going to have to come to grips with that because I really don't want to make him an A, and I'm going to probably make him a B, and if I'm not alive to the Bs in the last leg, I will get beat by him, but I've gotten beaten the last leg plenty of times before, so I have experience.
I mean, I don't think I got through the first leg of the Colonial Downs pick 5 for like 3 weeks into the meet. It was a really tough sequence every time.
You know, at Saratoga, Jessica, I went 4 for 5 approximately 20 times.
You should get a prize for that.
I'm not exaggerating. I'm not. If I were a real masochist, I could go back and check because they're all on narrow bets. But in a 42-day meet with 84, probably about 90 something pick 5 opportunities. I didn't play every one of them, but I played a lot of them. Christine
loves that ticket.
Christine is becoming my favorite viewer of this podcast.
Oh yeah, she's the best. Yes, she's the best. Okay, who's up? Kyle, Uncle Howard. Put up Kyle's winning pick 5 ticket.
Yes, sir.
Kyle is all spread out. 2, 5, 6, 8 with 1, 6, 7, 8 with 2, 5, 9 with 1, 7. And Kyle says, "I'm not afraid to single in the last leg." I love your attitude, Kyle. You have the 9 singles in the last leg.
Never, and like I said, it's the fact that I just think he's a good gate to wire threat. If someone goes with him, I get beat. So be it. It is the way it is. I'm going pretty deep in the maiden special weight and the maiden claiming. I probably could condense the Hill Prince in the 7th race in the second, which is the second leg. I went 4 deep. I went with Be Better, McKinnon, unanimous consent, and my top pick, Celestial City. I probably could condense it, but the main special weights for the 2-year-olds, and I am a very big proponent of just go with your best opinions. If you don't go deep in the first leg just because you want to be alive, go with your best opinions. But with the 2-year-olds in this race, I'm kind of just want to be able to spread out in these races and play my better opinions later on.
Yeah, well, you know, my mantra on this, I've said it many times, and we're not really cavemen players, but I go nuts when people are afraid to single at the end just because they want to be alive to more. If that's your strongest opinion, single, and it's white knuckle city. we
Right.
get it.
You're sitting there
you know,
sweating on the couch, but yeah.
But one thing I'm very sure of all these years of playing these wagers, you have to hit every leg.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
I think that's right.
the year that we hit the big Breeders' Cup pick six at Mohegan with Arrogant with the Jim Mazer group, I after every race I started saying you can't go 6 for 6 if you don't go 1 for 1. So by the third leg, the guys were saying to me, "Okay, Paul, what is it? You can't go 6 for 6 if you don't go 4 for 4." That one worked out pretty well. Uncle Howard, what do you got?
So I know people.
Good.
I know people are going to say that I'm being contradictory because of leg threes, but I do need to explain myself. So my ticket as of right now is a $48 ticket, 5-6 with 1-6 with 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 with 3, 4, 7 with 1. Let me first be better in leg 2 in the, is that the Hill Prince? Yeah. Is by price play of the entire day. That's the Pletcher horse with the fantastic one buyer in his last race. I think that horse is fascinating, Jessica. That's going to be my price play there. Here's my thinking, guys, in race 3 and 5 or leg 3 and 5. I'm either going to go deep in leg 3 or leg 5, the last race. I'm not sure which. I'm going to relook at things, reestablish what I want to do, and I might just go very light in the third leg, and go deeper in the last leg. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but in my ABC play, Paul, in my ABC play, I'm definitely going to use like 1 or 2 as my A's to shorten my ticket in an ABC. But if it was a caveman ticket and it was only $48, guys, I think you can go deep in that leg 3. I was sort of referring to an ABC ticket where I wouldn't go 6 or 7 deep in my A's. Anyway, I would take a stance with the 1 in the end. A complete guess, though. Leg 3, I have no idea.
And mine, and I don't typically play cavemen, Jessica, but I've hit a few, and I'm going to play this one, Jess, and I'm going to say up front that if I do get lucky enough to hit it, we'll earmark some of the money for TRF. How's that?
That sounds great. The horses, thank you, guys.
It's the 5-10 with the 1-7-8 with the 4-5-8 with the 3-6-8. I added the 6 Howard. You emailed me about that, but you were probably flunking some kid while I was adding that.
Where I'm sorry, where'd you have that horse?
Second to last leg, I added the 6. Remember, you said it only cost 36, and I never try to go under budget. I
had a busy evening with parents there towards the end.
So mine is 5-10 with 1-7-8 with 4-5-8 with 3-6-8 with 1-8, and because I was hosting, I decided I would go over the Uncle Cheap Howard $50 budget, so I went to 54. So there, and I actually think for me that leg is in a way the most difficult. That I don't really have strong opinions in that 9th race, that allowance race. So I started out maybe going to go with 1, and then I said 2, and then when I realized I was under budget, I went up to 3. So I'm going to go thin at the beginning. I think Jess, you brought it up. It was either the 6th or the 8th you mentioned, but it was the 8th. But I think it's the same idea in the 6th. Just because it's a 2-year-old maiden race, don't get caught up into thinking you have to go 5 or 6 deep. And the beauty of going too deep in the first leg is there's always the pick 4. So for those serial,
there's always another one.
There's always another one. So anyway, Jessica, this is terrific. We know we kept you up past your bedtime, but we know that you will be there with the pup tots in the morning because you start your day every day visiting. How many do you have now? 2?
I have 2. So the other one I have is a familiar name to anyone who followed Mid-Atlantic racing for a stretch. Puget Sound, who is the best bred horse I will ever touch in my life. He's by AP Indy out of Boleto, who was, that's exactly the reaction. He also has that attitude of like the rich, spoiled kid. Like, do you know who my dad is? He found himself in a pretty bad situation at the start of the pandemic and did not have a happy ending in his future. So I took him, knowing he'd never really be a riding horse. He's physically very limited, but he is a very pretty lawn ornament.
And they're in the same place, I assume?
Yeah. they're both in at my best friend's backyard, which is nice at this point.
Excellent. That's terrific. Well, Jess, as I said at the beginning, you know how I feel about you. You're one of my favorites. I was your constituent. Jessica Howard, as a relatively young woman, took over the very much predominant male member New England Turf Riders Association, and you might be shocked to find out that not everyone was as open-minded as others.
Yeah, so we joke about this a lot, but like what Paul did back then, and he was so respected by his peers, he empowered me to kind of have a voice and take into that, to get into that role. First I was the vice president, and then I was the president. And again, not all of his fellow constituents were lovely about it. There were a couple that were, had some real issues with a 20-something-year-old woman being in charge of anything, let alone the old white man club that they had all been in forever. But yeah, Paul, I'm forever grateful to the way you empowered me to get to take charge of that.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, and I've told you this, I really didn't know that at the time, that there was that out there, because if I did, it would have been a problem. Because please. Most of them were in it for the kiddies' meals that you talked about.
I mean, it was a buffet.
So we should remind people, Howard, that we are now 15 days away from the Breeders' Cup. We have all sorts of content coming for folks, both on the airways and in the blog. We will be doing an exhaustive amount of work between now and Breeders' Cup Day. I usually take off a few days around the Breeders' Cup. I've decided I'm not working that week. I am not coming to Keeneland, Howard, but I am spending for the second year in a row. I am spending Breeders' Cup weekend in New York. I will be at Aqueduct playing live racing. The real Aqueduct meet starts on the Friday. So we will be staying at Aqueduct and playing at Aqueduct, the Breeders' Cup. So that's where I will be with all of your listeners, Doc Mora, Bob Mullins, who Jessica knows well, and Tom Sophus. So we did it last year.
I don't think my schools will let me take the week off. I'll have to get in touch. I think that's going to be a hard no.
Yeah, well, put it this way.
Good for you.
Hey,
Paul, I got two things.
I'm not scheduling myself into anything that week that I don't want to spend time on.
I got two things real quick from Jim Pilars at the bottom of the screen. Said, Paul, you did an excellent job. Congratulations, Paul. A lot of everyone have a say on their top selections. Kept a good pace. Compliments myself and Pete. Kyle might be up next with hosting the show. And the other thing I do want to say, Jessica, I'm a big fan of Kim Weir. I've had her on the show. The TRF is absolutely an amazing organization. Any time or money that people can donate to the TRF, I highly recommend you do it. I'm a big fan. I've been to Old Friends as well and other places. So anything that we can do for horses after they run, they put it all on the line for us. We should do the same for them after their careers are over. So, Jessica, I really appreciate all the work you do for aftercare. I think it's absolutely crucial. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And it's really, so nice to hear it spoken about in so many different facets of the industry. Like it's important for everyone who enjoys the sport in any way.
So good luck at Aqueduct, Belmont at Aqueduct. Good luck at Keeneland. We still have solid Keeneland racing left. Good luck at Parks if you're playing Parks. So thank you, Howard. Jessica, you're the best. Hope to see you at a racetrack again soon. That was a treat down at Pennsylvania to have a little Suffolk Downs reunion. And Howard, we are not on live Saturday, so we will see people again on Tuesday.
Yeah. So next week, and I'll put it on. Everyone, follow me on Twitter, please. If you want to join my email list, please email me, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. I'll put you on our podcast email list. Paul, we're going to go live next Monday. Monday the 24th are the Breeders' Cup pre-entry announcements. So we'll find out who the horses are pre-entered, their first choice, their second choice. And then hold your hats, guys. A week from Thursday, I'll earlier start so we can get this gentleman on from Liverpool, UK. Davy Lane, a week from today, will be here to talk all about the Euros. He's a great punter, handicapper, and we're also going to have another show that Thursday night as well. So we'll have 2 shows next Thursday and a show on Monday coming up here for the pre-entries.
He's a slave driver, Jessica. What can we say?
I like the enthusiasm. I mean, it's Breeders' Cup. It's our Christmas and birthday all rolled into one.
Got to do it.
It's the best. Okay, we are done. Jess, thanks very much. Kyle, great job. Howard, back to those students tomorrow, and we will see you folks next week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Jessica. Bye-bye.